Welcome to Champions Park Lake Studio. I'm your host, Dana Potts. I'm the promoter of Champions Park Lake in Springfield, Ohio, home of Wake the Lake 4, which is host of the NGK F1 Powerboat Championship Series. Welcome to this evening. This is our quarantine special. We do this every night. We want to talk boat racing. We've got a legendary guest tonight. The man we know as T-Hawk, Tracy Hawkins, NGK F1 Powerboat Championship driver. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Thanks for having me.
So, how you doing down there in Texas in quarantine, man?
Well, I'm trying to get caught up on a whole bunch of stuff that's backlogged since we can't hardly do any work or you got to stay at home and everything. So, man, just an example today or yesterday afternoon, I weed eated half the yard. And then today I've been doing all kinds of things, working on boats and building a garden and all kinds of things.
Awesome. So, yeah, you're a man that knows how to stay busy. I know you don't sit still at all. So we kind of like to dive into some boat racing. I want to get a little history, a little background, pull some information out of T-Hawk, because maybe some of our fans don't know the history of Tracy Hawkins. So kind of give me how long you been racing and what kind of set the hook for you to get into racing. We'll start off with that. What was the hook that got you into racing?
The hook was kind of like watching Rick's story last night. Mine's very similar to his. My dad was, when I was a young 6 or 7 year old young kid, my dad started hanging out with a gentleman by the name of Bill Kaufman. It had a Chrysler outboard dealership shop here in Houston, and he started racing boats. And so I remember we used to go to the Channel Derby down here on the San Jacinto River, and I just always had a love for it. So I got my first boat when I was about 7 years old, and we have a place down in Sargent, Texas, down on the Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. And I could run this as a 14-foot Lone Star boat with a 40 horsepower Wizard on it, but I had to stay within eye distance on Caney Creek, the river, where I couldn't get out of sight. So anyways, and I used to act like I was racing boats in a circle, and so it went on and went through high school, and I got out of high school and didn't really know what I was going to do with my life at that time. I kind of wanted to go play football because I played it throughout high school. And anyway, it didn't, that didn't materialize. And so I got into the electrical apprenticeship program here in Houston, Texas. And then about 2 weeks out of high school, a friend of mine calls me that I'd piddled with some other junk boats like I do nowadays, kind of. But anyway, a friend of mine calls me up and says, "Hey, there's a tunnel boat, a boat for sale over on Berry Road, which is the north side of Houston." So I go by there and I go to this address he tells me about, and there to set this boat out in front along Berry Road, and lo and behold, I ended up buying the boat, give them $1,250 for it, and the person that I bought the boat that pretty much everybody should know was the one and only Daryl Boyer. Mm-hmm. That was start of my relationship with Daryl and his brother Kevin. To this day, we're very dear friends. Talked to Daryl yesterday, going to meet up with him, and I think Mr. Doug Ray's coming in town. So anyway, I get the boat, go to my first race. I finished third in it. Of course, we only had 4 boats, but I did finish third in my first boat for the first race. So that was at the end of the season, and so do the things that everybody does when they get a new boat, and they paint it and do all this extra work. So I go back out, going to run it, test it a little bit, and I come up to Lake Conroe, which is the lake I live on now, and I blow it over. It blowed over and hit on the tail and bounced right back up. I poked a hole in it, so I get nervous. And anyway, I jump out of the boat, and the boat sinks. So fix the boat. Then after I get it fixed, season's coming on. I let my brother drive it on the same lake at the same spot, and a pleasure boat guy runs over my brother in my boat. Luckily, he had insurance, so I get insurance money out of it. And I think that's, with all this, the way it was happening, was what kind of took me as my career started. And if
Mm-hmm.
so, I get me another sporty boat, and this was a sporty boat that I'd bought.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it and run it a little bit. Then I had a guy named in Lake Dallas, up at Lake Dallas, a good friend of mine named Tommy Droz. Had him build me a sporty boat, and I run it for up to about 19. Well, come at the end of the season in 1984, we had a little local race that up by where right at the marina where Wesley Cheatham's lives.
Uh-huh.
We had a little small race there, and me and Daryl's Bowyer's got a sporty boat, and he's fast. And anyway, I'm on the outside of him, and we're playing a game, and I hook in front of him, and he runs over me and knocks the motor off the boat. So what do? We here again, the end of the season, we let it set to the last minute, and Kevin and I said, Kevin, I asked Kevin, his brother, who builds the Chaos that I've got the designs from and stuff. Anyway, so he and I fixed the boat, made some changes, and at that time, this was 1985. Duke Waltrip was running, and so I go out and boat was the changes we made. The boat really come alive, and lo and behold, I won 2 national championships in 1985 and the marathon in a closed course, and got inducted to the Hall of Champions.
Nice.
So very proud of that.
Yeah.
But we run about I don't know year I think in '87 or '88 SST 60 motors come out. So we
Mm-hmm.
built another. We built this our first new boat, and it was a 60 boat with the capsule in it, and did everything ourselves. And that's kind of the way I've been in my whole career. Only way I could do this and still today is to be self sufficient. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we had a good run with the 60 boat for about 4 or 5 years, and we bought one of the first SST 120 motors out,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up buying Timmy Seabold's weed eater boat, what we called the boat. He went up in the weeds, so I bought it from him. We named out the weed eater, and run some SST 140 races with it, and then put the 120 on it. Did pretty good with it, and finally sold it, and we built our first. We put my motor on a boat that Kevin built
Mm-hmm.
for SST 100, and it was really a fast boat.
Yeah.
And so then now this time frame is around 1994, 92, 93, I guess. 94, we come out and we had a really good season. We won the marathon, won the sprint championship, nationals in Kankakee,
Mm-hmm.
and won a lot of races with that boat in 94 and 95. Had the opportunity in 90 and 96. 96, I kind of run a duel. I got the opportunity to race for Rusty Lamb in Formula One on the
Yep.
LGP circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a good run at it for about two. I think I run with Rusty to about 87, and then at that time I lost my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like it was time to step back out of it. So I got out of the sport for about 7 or 8 years, I think,
Really?
and and I got back in it in about 2007 or 8. I got to talk. I made the mistake and stopped by Sport Marine, who we all know is John Schubert and Michael Schubert's their place, and they were still had to. I mean, I got out of lost. I couldn't be around it at that
Yeah.
time because I knew what I'd do. And in the meantime, I'd started a business and had a lot of people depending on me. And finally, I said, well, then thought to myself, then people are going to have to depend on themselves because I'm fixing to go back to doing what I love. Anyway, I
Yeah.
found the last Chaos boat that we built. John Mifko had it up hanging in his shop
Mm-hmm.
out here on the south side of Houston. So we get it out of the ceiling with about an inch of dust on it, and we go back to racing it. And anyway, so it just one thing led to another, and so here we are. We've been back running at it. The sport has had some ups and downs, and I've been through all of them. But what we
Mm-hmm.
have going on now is really a good deal that John and Tim and all of us
Yeah.
racers have.
Yeah.
So
Let's dive into that a little more, and also just want to let my guests know tonight. Feel free to make a comment. Hopefully, Jamie, our producer, will be able to put your question up for Tracy or myself. let's talk a little bit about the series. You've seen them all. You were involved in prop. We had what F1 Champ Boat for a while. We had IOGP in the states, and Timmy, John, and even Chris helped putting together the motor package that we have now and the balance of power and all that stuff. What do you think of the series and how it's going in the direction? This year we're probably going to have 30 to 35 boats out there.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you to back up a little bit. You're exactly right, and I'm proud to say that I was involved in the initial motor building, coming up with the motor package. We all
Yeah.
went up to Wesley and James Cheatham's place back in the
Mm-hmm.
that day. Chris Fairchild shows up with a whole bunch of different scenarios, and
Uh-huh.
and he and John had been working on, and he had, I think we had 5 or 6 different motors with the equal amount of boats. Kevin McCullough was involved in it, the
Nice.
Flemings were involved in it, and I can't remember who all was there, but anyway, we put a certain motor, we drew straws, I even think, put motors on them. We set up a course, and we went out
Mm-hmm.
there and did some simulating. Well, my little buddy Austin Cheatham put the water tube up in the gear case on my boat, so I made it about 2 laps or a half, a lap and a half maybe, and I'm frying the motor. Austin, I hope Austin's watching this, but
Oh, he will. He
anyway,
will.
yeah. So we but that day was the start of this motor package, and I'm gonna tell you, the motor package and the things where these guys have been doing have been just phenomenal. I've been running this motor in this class from the day it was started, and it's such good racing, and the competition. It's all about you got to bring your setup and your propeller game, because the motors are so equal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think it's
think that, and then with Timmy, after Timmy retired, I had some really great racing with Timmy throughout all this, and I
yeah.
have my whole career, because we
Mm-hmm.
both of us kind of come up at the same time. And
Absolutely.
but it's Timmy and the NGK people there, and everybody involved. It's phenomenal what's going on.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of success in seeing this motor package. It brought the cost down in the sport because we were running those big motors that were big horsepower blowing up and things like that. And it's brought the cost down, but it's also brought up the competition too. And I think you're seeing a
Sure.
ton of new boats this year because everybody wants to raise the game, which is good.
Well, and you can go out and find, the boats are somewhat available. I mean, we definitely have to start going toward the newer boats and the better safety cells. I'm in full agreement with that, and I'm as guilty as all the other guys that are not running the good stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
we got to make a go at that. But the competition, and I went out through the winter, and I showed some of the James Fleming and some of them other guys showed up at my shop one day, and I think I had 14 complete motors that I've got from around Houston here, that complete motors that, were they all good? But I did get parts and pieces off of them.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, the motors you can find motors, and
Mm-hmm.
you can get it. You can build your motor, a power head real cheap,
Yeah.
and go from there, and be on the water where it don't cost you an arm and a leg, and that's
Yeah.
what's good about it right now, is it is pretty cost efficient.
Yeah. So, I see a lot of we see a lot of new boats, and we were talking off camera that you see lot of new boats, but you see a lot of guys working on boats. Tell me a little bit about, because you did a little work on McCullough's boat, get it back in shape. You've been working this off season's been pretty busy for you.
Oh yeah, and it always is. But that's what I love doing, and I've got a shop set up for that, and I love being able to help all my buddies out. But first off, let me back up. I didn't do a little bit of work on McCullough's boat. We rebuilt the whole stinking thing. That boat, after winter, that boat had holes in the bottom, in the sides, in the decks. It was weak. I mean, Fairchild, he put her through the test. So, but yes, we were able to get the boat all back together. With I had some very dear friends, to, Bill Spurrill from down the street, that lives down the street. He used to do a lot of work for AJ Foyt on his Indy cars. And he and his son and another good friend of theirs, that they were a big instrumental in getting Kevin's boat going. But yeah, we got that. And matter of fact, then Kevin and I went down to Florida for the first that race down there.
Yeah,
And we were both fast, and I'm very good, so proud that they won the game. McCullough's really bad about setting tools and heavy stuff down on the freshly painted decks. So I was on him all weekend about that. But anyway, we really strive. I strive on trying to help my guys. I have Greg Foster's Seabold here, the ones that he beat up pretty good, and not intentionally by no means, but in Toledo, I think it was, wasn't it?
But, he ran over. He didn't. Or no, you flew off a buoy. He stuffed it after the final lap or something like that.
I was trying to go flying that day. But
we had some incidents up there. You old boys we were kind of sitting on the dock like, hey, do the old guys know what's going on around here? You're running over a buoy and the race was over and Foster's wrecking. So you old guys were like,
well, yeah, we definitely didn't have our A game on that day for sure. But anyway, and then Dustin Terry's got a boat, bought a boat for just kind of to have it from Chris Hilton, and I put a transom in it for him. So yeah, I've been busy around here. But after I got that Hoffman done, I told them all. I told Greg the other day. He called checking on the boat, and I said, Greg, I'm not working on anything else until I get mine dialed in. Because last year I got stuck behind the 8 ball, didn't even get to run the first little small race before Port Neches, and I sure could have used that time in the boat, but it's all good. I mean, that's what I'm here for, and we got a pretty nice shop. You've been to my shop, so it's pretty spacious, and we got it full of stuff right now.
So speaking of your boat, what is your plans for 2020? Because I know you had a Seabold and a Chaos, and you were going back and forth last year. And I've also seen you've got I believe an aeroslot capsule in there or something sitting in that barn out there. So what's your plans for this year?
Well, I'm strictly going to concentrate on the Chaos. The boat's good. Looking back if you look back at the history of the boat, it won 3 heat races it's run 7 times, 6 heat races and 1 final, I think. And I won 3 heat races with it, and I led a 4th one in Windsor. I won 1 and led 1, in Windsor, and motor went crazy on me. But we're making a few changes to the bottom and adding a few things and taking a few things away or 1 or 2 anyway. And I'm gonna strictly stay with her. So as far as that, and so the Seabold, we may have some plans of maybe another driver, somebody climbing into the Seabold. Nothing for sure right now, but there's some thoughts and some talk about it. So anyway, and nothing else, she'll be sitting there on go. She's ready to go right now. So
awesome. We're excited. Hopefully we can get the season started. It's all unsure right now. So
sure would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been around the sport for a while. I've asked this question to a couple drivers, and I want to get your thoughts on, or not, best situation. If you had one time, give me the top 5 drivers that you would want to line up against, past or present. If you had like a dream, go back and do something. Top 5 drivers, past or present, that you would want to line up on the dock.
Well, Dana, that's a hard one for me to answer because I have lined up against all my heroes.
You probably lined up against a lot of them already.
I have. I've lined up against. I'm gonna tell you, I've raced against some of the best of the best since about 1990, starting in 1994 with the 120s, and have come up through the ranks even before that. I remember when I used to think that Chris Bush was the god, and then the next thing I know, 4 or 5 years later, I'm lined up on the start dock side by side with him, and that's just the name, just one of the the multiples. I mean, you got so many people back in the OGP days when we were running. If you didn't have, if you wasn't mad or somebody hadn't made you mad when you got in the boat, I promise you, you were mad when you got to the trailer after a race because somebody's going to chop the door on you or whatever. But we were all buddies and had a good time on the beach. And
Yeah.
even today, we've got so many talented drivers and guys doing such great jobs and it's so competitive. You know, I right now in the stage of my career, I've had a pretty dang good career, but
Yeah.
and man, I don't know how I can work any harder to get any faster, but I know I better find some speed here real quick. You know, because these
Yeah.
guys are coming with some serious numbers, and I've been running this class longer than longer than most of 90% of them, got 95% of them, and
Yeah.
they're coming in here and on their game, and they're smoking fast. You
Yeah.
know, and you know, it's just, but you got to work hard at it. And so it's to name top five, it'd be hard to do. I can't name top five because I'm gonna tell you there's 10 or 15 running against right now. You that just get after it. You know, you
Yeah.
from. I mean, I can spit out names, but we all know who they are. You know,
Yeah. No,
and so
it's great to see
you
the.
know, it's been a long time since Tracy Hawkins has had butterflies when he
Yeah.
lines up. And I generally, there's stories of, I used to get sick sitting on the start dock and doing things out the cockpit, waiting on the flag to drop. But now I kind of, only one person I ever know that does it was Bill Seabold. I take a nap before they shoot the 1 minute gun, while we're waiting to line up.
Yeah.
But it gets your adrenaline going now, thinking about who's there. We got all kinds of people that are coming. We were Rusty, Jim Slack with Rusty driving, and Mark Majors coming back, and
Hmm.
we got with Dylan Anderson and the new Hoffmans, and
Yeah.
it's just everybody that is here. You got to be going. You got to be ready. So
Yeah. No,
can't
that's
have
what
any
I.
kind of hiccup.
Hey, we got a question. Michael Mackey, how did you arrive at your team colors? Which, you do have some famous team colors. That purple and yellow it's which I joke with you. You better not put more yellow on there because there's enough yellow boats out there.
I understand, and actually, the way when I got out of the high school I went to here in Houston, or Klein High School, our team colors were blue and gold. So I initially run blue and gold for years on my boats, and then I don't know, I just kind of Chris Bush had a boat one time. He had a Burgess that I really liked the way the design of it was, and I don't know how the purple coming in there, but it did, and then I started playing with it, and the angles designs on it. It took me a while to get the angles just right where I wanted them, and then when I started throwing the bright neon or the fluorescent orange striping to it that really set it off, I just kind of where I stayed at, and there may be a new paint scheme this year on the Chaos. Uh,
Nice.
but it'll be bright one way or another. But I'm thinking I hadn't put any colors on it yet, but there may be some different colors.
Awesome. We're excited to see that. So I'll have to confess this. Whoa, we got another question. Hello, Tracy Hawkins, K Dub. She's our favorite poster. You had some damage to your boat at Port Neches. Tell us what happened.
Well, it wasn't some damage; it was a lot of damage. But we had we the second time out in the new boat at Port Neches on Saturday afternoon, the second heat race that it's ever been in. We won it, so it put us for the third heat. It put us kind of in the middle of the pack for the third heat Sunday morning. And Mark, or my good friend Mark Profit, he was starting on the inside of me, and we're coming from the middle of the pack. And anyway, we're going to the corner, and there was three of us, Travis Yates and Mark and I. We all was going to trying to get around the corner, and it got tight there, and I ended up I hit Travis. When he come in to take to go around the corner, and then um, I was trying to maneuver it, and I hit him, and I just kind of went right over at an angle over his capsule, and I think when that happened, it turned him up on the side, and I think that's when Private Mark, he had nowhere to go, and he
Yeah.
tagged um, Travis in the bottom, and it was a bad deal, and I felt bad about it, and and we all did. But just fortunate enough that Travis is healthy and he's going to be racing with us again this year. And
Yeah,
everybody's good. So
yeah.
it's
That was a
that's the last thing I wanted to happen, and then it was in the heat of the battle, and I don't know really what happened. I can't tell you what happened. I mean, I just all except that three of us was trying to get through that start corner.
was that in the final with 25 boats or
No,
24 boats?
no,
No, that
that,
wasn't. Was it?
no,
That was before the final.
that was the third heat for Sunday
Yeah,
morning
okay,
before
that's what
time.
I thought. That was probably the nastiest wreck I've ever seen. I mean, loudness. We could hear it from the
Yeah,
dock. It was
I
nasty.
didn't,
And
I didn't even, yeah,
thank
I didn't
God
even
everybody
realize that. Did not realize that the seriousness that had happened after behind me, because when I hit I went airborne through the air, and then when the boat got back on the water, I I was reached down to start to kind of to unstrap my belts because I figured I knew I was fixing to sink, and the motor was still running. So I gassed it, and I made it all the way back to the trailer, and then that's when I
Oh,
found out what happened, with Mark and Travis. But yeah, it was a bum deal, and we definitely nobody wants to see that or hear that, and
yeah.
but it's I had another one like that down in Mexico here several years ago, and just anybody can ask John Schubert or Mike Schubert or Jay Price
Yeah.
about it. I went through five of them guys down there on the start, and
Wow.
it's just it's just in the heat of the battle, and it's
I
I
mean,
don't know.
you Tracy, you talked about how you now have butterflies on the start. I mean, for a while we were struggling to get boat count and get the series back going and get this motor package going. I mean, this past year, I mean, Timmy and John and I mean, we had 25 start in Springfield. We had what 24 in Port Neches. I mean, we haven't seen that many start in forever. I mean, that's a lot of guys. That's scary stuff. And I say that to the viewers. I mean, what is your feeling? I mean, you got some rookies out there. You got a lot of guys that haven't done many starts, let alone laps, that you're lining up against. I mean, you're flying that boat doing 120 mile an hour to a buoy. It's pretty scary stuff.
Well, yeah, and at that point, you go on your defensive more than you do of the aggressive,
Yeah.
and because you got to be watching these guys, and because then nothing against them, but they don't have the experience, so
Mm-hmm.
it's up to the seasoned guy to be watching. You got to watch everything. You got to watch what's in front of you, behind you, beside you, all at
Mm-hmm.
one time, and it's a difficult task, and it's all happening in seconds, especially with up in Springfield with the right hander,
Yeah.
and it's that right hander throws a whole different aspect up at the drivers. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with what Dylan Anderson was saying the other day. He said, you get through the right hander and you come back down to shoot in front of the crowd, and at that time when you turn to go back toward the turn one, you're really
Yeah.
setting yourself up for the right hander at that time.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of you got to pay attention for sure.
Yeah. You got to think through the race course, which I think what helps create a lot of passing, a lot of action in Springfield. So I had a question for you. I try to lean on you because you've been around for a while. What's the strangest place you've ever raced at?
Strangest place. Oh man.
Because I think I asked this question for Fairchild, and he said he did a retention pond at a mall one time.
Well, I'm gonna tell you the strangest place I ever raced at is back in the day when we had club racing was kept pretty big, and I was driving a SST 45 for Brad Collins
Uh
Mirage
huh.
Boats, a little Tomcat, and we had a race in Lufkin, Texas, in the pond at the zoo. Now, you throw a bunch of boat racers, good crazy boat racers in with a bunch of crazy animals. It's pretty funny. But we got down there, and Lewis Collins, Brad's dad, he was kind of running our little 45 program, and Brad and I'd get over. I'd look over there. The first heat we went out, and then we made. I mean, it's like a I don't know. It was like a 12-second lap, a lap deal. And I spun out in the first heat. We had a little 9-pitch propeller in there, but nobody else had anything that small. And I'd spin it out because the motor would be too high. And then I'd gather it back up, and I'd catch them, and I'd pass them again. I'd be in lead, and I'd spin it out again. So I come in, and I'd tell Brad, we got to lower this motor. And he and I'd lower the motor. And then before the next heat, I'd look up, and his dad would be over at the boat raising it back up. And I'd go out, and I'd spin it out again. Finally, I said, Lewis, leave my dadgum motor height alone. But, in a zoo pond with a bunch of 45s going around, that was probably the most bizarre place.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
That'd been awesome. So, along those lines, I'll ask this question, but I'll preface it. What's your favorite race course besides Springfield, Ohio? Unless you want to share that, how great we are and everything. But what's your favorite race course all time?
Well, I'm gonna give all time. I'm gonna give you. Of all time. I got to throw probably 3 of them in there. And one, the by far this day and age, Springfield and Port Neches, Texas, are my loves.
Yeah.
But George Winter Park was in St. Louis was phenomenal. I'm glad to say I got to race there numerous times, and in '97, the year Billy Seabold retired, I run third to him there in champ, and I was best as I ever did there. But George Winter Park was just the crowd and the course and going around the island and everything that it had going for it and or going against it was really cool.
Yeah, no, George Winter Park was awesome. I look at those days because I was there when you finished on the podium. I look at those days and I try to mimic that in Springfield, Ohio. I think of that, and I want 100,000 people sitting on those sidelines watching that.
And I want to thank you because you're doing that and you're doing a great job. And I love Springfield. I'm gonna tell you, there's just nothing like that.
Well, I can tell you, Springfield loves you because all the comments I get from all our fans, they're like, "We love Tracy Hawkins. We love that number 2." So
I don't know why they do that, but I try to. I love getting in the middle of them. Saturday afternoons, I go down and visit with all the ones that I met the first year there, and it's just the parade and getting off the boat and walking through the crowd on the parade through the crowd with the boats. That's what it's all about, And I had a guy tell me one time. He says, if you get the kids to come in, the mom and daddies will be there. They're going to spend the money to come see us, and that's what we want. That's how we get our crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we got another question. Val Collins jumped in here, covering all of your career. What was your closest, tightest win, and which win was the most fun? 2 questions.
The closest win I ever had was in Guntersville, Alabama. We were for a 120 race, and my dad and Neil Barkley, who is working with helping the Rakers. He's a good friend of he and my dad were big buddies. Uh-huh. And Neil had just built they rebuilt my power head, and he broke it in a test tank. So anyway, we take the motor and we go to Guntersville, Alabama. It's an APR race, and we have 22 to 25 boats probably. It was back when 120 was really big, and I'm in my little Chaos boat, and this had to have been in 1994, I think. And I blow the motor up. So Greg Colley at the time was the hot rod guru, and nobody else had a spare power head, or nobody would fess up to let me rent one from him or whatever. So finally, his stepdad rented us. He didn't let us use it. We paid for it, but we had to give him 20% of the prize money for an old wore-out test motor power head that they tested with. So he qualified on the pole, and I qualified second. And we jump off the beach, and I beat him by about a boat length, maybe a boat length and a half, to the pin. And I took the pin from him because I knew that was my only chance. And we run 30-lap race. We run 31 laps. and he was all over me for that 31 laps. And the reason I say 31 because neither one of us saw the checkered flag, and we run an extra lap. And coming out of the fourth turn on the extra lap, he blows over.
Oh,
And so he had to he had to go through inspection with two motors. His backup motor won the race, and he blew it over, and he got his boat wet and everything else. And just for the fight and the war, that was probably it. Now there was one other one I just remembered in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Terry Strock did me the same way, and that was probably the most gratifying win, just because Terry and I are very dear friends. Went to high school together,
mm-hmm.
and graduated from the same high school, and we tested every day. And to have him wear me out like he did, it was just a cool race.
Awesome. Awesome.
I don't remember what the other part of that question was.
Most memorable win?
Most memorable win is the 1994 Sprint Champions in Kankakee, Illinois. We had 27 boats show up that year, and we had to stair step in for the final. I think they only run 10 or 8 or 10 in the final. So with that many boats, we had to run like seven heat races. I think I did, and everybody else, as we stair stepped to the final. And I hit out of the whole weekend. I hit 7 out of 8 clocks perfect, and you just don't do that at Kankakee. This is back in the clock days, and it was it was really neat to just go out and be on my game and have everything click for me that day. And that's the years that I won a lot, but that's the most memorable one probably.
Got it. Awesome. So we know all these racers race hard, but we also play hard. And I was asking a couple questions to a couple guys. What's the best ever prank you've ever seen at a boat race on another team?
Oh, that's what's pretty good. In Cypress Gardens at the 45 World Championships years ago, I wasn't racing there, but I went over to help John Schubert, our owner of our circuit. He was running 45, and we get over there, and Steve Michael was the announcer, the F1H2O announcer. And anyway, he was there. So somehow or another, as usual, like we used to do, we got into a rental car war. And in a matter of about 3 hours, they started it with turning my rent car sideways in a parking lot where I couldn't get out because I had a little egg beater. So next thing you know, we stop and get some shaving cream and send eggs and whatever else we did. And I don't know how they ever got into my trunk. They come back at me they put about in the back seat and of the trunk, I think there's probably 10 or 15 bags of ice at the end of the night that were there in the morning. That was all water. So, and then there was one more in West Virginia. We put, I don't remember whose boat it was, one of the 45 guys. We put his boat in the Holiday Inn swimming pool after he had gone to bed. He gets up to go to the driver's meeting. He comes down and his boat's sitting nobody around to help him. His boat's floating in the swimming pool.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's the rent car wars used to be crazy.
Yep, exactly. It was Days of Thunder wasn't a far stretch for racers with the rental car scene.
No, I mean, I never want to have to know I purchased ones that one of us fools rented for at a race.
Excellent. Well, let's wrap up the show here. I'd like to ask a couple last questions to you. So, my last question would be: we're in quarantine. We're trying to get through this, and it's a big reason we're doing this show like this to get us boat racing and talking while we're in quarantine. So, what is your guilty pleasure bunker food that you had to stock up on to make it through 14 days or however many days of quarantine?
Dana, you've eaten dinner here at my home.
Oh yeah.
And whatever Miss Jane cooks,
Uh-huh.
I eat it. And she is quite the chef, and she never fails to amaze me on what she comes up with. And so, I mean, we've had two dishes. I don't think she's ever made them here in the last 4 days that were had one day and one the next, and went back and repeated that the next 2 days. And she made us some kind of a pizza without the bread in a casserole style that's phenomenal. So we do okay. We eat well around here. All the guys that show up that come here, the Flemings and the gas bars and the Cheatham's, I think we have a saying that we think James Fleming can sniff it out because he shows up around here. He knows what time to show up, which is fine. We love having him.
Yeah.
She loves cooking for all of us, and between her and Izzy, they hold the fort down. And but
So,
it's
so what you're, so
I
what you're
can't tell you
saying,
one thing.
so
Huh?
what you're saying, Jane's the one to blame when you're like 10, 20 pounds overweight.
You're right. You're right. And I mean it's we well around here. She does just like she does at the races. She got
Yeah.
her grill. She does a lot of cooking on the grill, and I just can't say enough about my sweetheart. She's
Nice.
quite the trooper. It took me about 7 or 8 years, I think, to get her to finally. She didn't like going to these boat races because it just scared her for the danger involved. But she
Yeah.
finally, when she sold her barn and everything, she started coming to him with me, and she couldn't go at that time because she had her business. But she's gotten where she's quite a she and our mascot Miss Izzy is
Yep.
we I love having them both there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to throw it to you. You can thank sponsors, thank family, friends. I'll just throw it to you.
I just got to thank everybody that's helped me throughout my whole career. I've had a lot of help from family, my brother, early days, and friends, and even today. Just and all you guys, you promoters, doing everything you do, John and Tim and NGK and all my competitors for just being who you are and allowing us to boat race and do what we love. I just turned 60 years old. I'm almost to the end of my career. I'm pretty sure. But not saying I still won't be involved. But it's been a fun ride, and I've had a lot of met a lot of great people. I want to. There's something I have to say to Val Collins.
Yeah.
Is this girl painted me a picture of my boat. If anybody wants a hand painted picture of your boats, please contact Val. It's phenomenal. Val, I
Awesome.
love you. And anyway, I wasn't going to
Ah,
get weak like that, but it did. But
no,
it's a very cool picture.
Tracy, we can't thank you enough for everything you do for the boat racing community, the fans, everything. We love you around it, and we love to continue to see you out on the race course. So thanks for coming out tonight and joining us. We're gonna shoot it over. Jamie's gonna shoot it over to our schedule for next time. Tomorrow we've got a little church going on with Lori Vidal. We rescheduled him for Sunday. Reese Coles on Monday. Mike Chatfield on Tuesday. Chris Owen on Wednesday. Thursday, Jason Campbell. Ladies' night with Jamie Duran and K Dub on Friday. Then we have Fearless Greg Foster, which should be interesting. Then we have the two-time NGKF1 champion driver next Sunday on the 5th. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully, everybody's staying safe, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks.